Hey everyone, happy Monday. Hope you're well. We're going to continue what we talked about last week and keep talking about the Beatles. Now, we actually are going backwards. What we watched last week was the Beatles' last ever concert. And so we're actually going to start at the beginning now. And so we're actually going to watch their first ever concert in America. Now, the Beatles were a band for about 10 years, from about 1960 to 1970, and they're from England. And we're going to watch their first TV performance in the United States, them playing a song called I Want to Hold Your Hand, a nice, fun little rock and roll pop tune. What's crazy about the Beatles is that they were the most popular band in the entire world. Easily, no one had ever seen a band like the Beatles before in terms of their music and like their look. They all had the same haircut and they all wore suits, and it was just fascinating to the world. So fascinating that the audience, most of the people in the audience, they wouldn't just sit there and listen. They would actually like get out of their chairs and like scream the entire time. And you could barely even hear the band. And so in the first video you watch, you'll hear the audience going. Now, fast forward a couple years, you're going to see the Beatles performing a song called Twist and Shout in Shea Stadium, which is the old Los Angeles Dodgers baseball stadium down in Los Angeles, of course. Imagine the TV studio with maybe a couple hundred people and how loud that was. Now, picture a baseball stadium, which probably has about 50,000 people in it, and have them all screaming at the Beatles. You can hear how crazy it is, and you can kind of see the Beatles when they're playing. They all have this kind of confused look on their face because they can barely hear themselves because the audience was so loud. And that right there is because, well, it's because they were screaming so loud. But that right there is the reason that they actually stopped playing concerts. Is they all had this attitude of, if we're going to go play concerts and people are just going to scream the whole time, we can't hear ourselves. Can the audience really hear themselves or hear us play to them? And so they just stopped playing music in public. They still recorded albums. They came up with some of the most unique albums of the time period. Check out Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Really colorful, interesting music on that album. But you can kind of hear that the music was almost secondary, and it was almost an experience to go to Beatles concerts and yell and scream a bunch. So again, 2 concerts posted in the links below. Check out I Want to Hold Your Hand in the TV studio on The Ed Sullivan Show, and then check out Twist and Shout at Shea Stadium. And then, for the full experience, go back to last week's video and check out Don't Let Me Down on the Rooftop. And maybe that kind of makes sense why they did an unannounced show on the rooftop in downtown London. Is they didn't advertise it. They just said, we want to play in public and we're not going to tell anybody, and let's just play. It was groundbreaking for them to make the decisions that they made in the music industry. So again, 2 videos today with a third one if you go in last week. Check out the Beatles. Wonderful, wonderful music, and enjoy. See you soon.